all staying safe and well, and welcome to the Citizen channel and our latest City number 9s, where we have a look at some great number 9s during our long history. We've had some very, very good ones. We've had some not quite so good ones. We've had all in between, haven't we? And even some great ones and some record breakers. But we continue our look today with City's number 9 at, yes, an Imre Varadi. We'll obviously go on to call him by his other names he was known as well in a little while. But yes, so join me as we look back at City number 9's Imre Varadi. Please, if you're new to the channel, push that subscribe button, push the bell notification. All these vlogs are coming out. City history, City present, City book club, City quizzes, loads of different stuff. And if you check the playlist of stuff on my film and TV channel as well, so if that's of any interest, please have a look at that. And there's links on screen for Facebook and Twitter. I do check every couple of days and follow and friend everyone back. And I used to have a little video shop in the 90s and 2000s. I still try and sell a few things. Very quiet now, but on eBay, so there's a couple of shops there for DVDs, movie posters from the 90s and 2000s, and some board games as well. So if you ever get a chance to have a check at that, please do so. I would be very grateful. All your comments are very welcome, especially about Mr. Varadi, what you remember of the time. Obviously, it's a season. Yeah, I think I was taking. When he first joined, it was 86, 87, wasn't it? So I may have been taking my eldest daughter at that stage, and I think my lad probably caught the tail end of his short stay at City. He didn't stay very long, as you probably know, but you'll soon find out in this anyway. But yeah, so quite interesting. Let me know your comments anyway, and please, if you can give us a thumbs up, that's fantastic. Right, yeah, he would play under 3 different managers. He wasn't with us long, but that was just the state at the time, wasn't it? At City, 3 different managers. And his stats at City were some of the best of his career. He had quite a few clubs, I think up to about 15 clubs he had. Obviously 2 or 3 big ones, we'll comment on those in a bit. But yeah, he did score goals consistently, not perhaps so much after he left City. I think he had a good run at Rotherham, I think, scored a few there, but he did struggle a little bit after leaving City. We've probably got the best of him is the last couple of years that he spent at City. Yeah, it was October 1986. Jimmy Frizzell had taken over, of course, from Billy McNeil. He'd swanned off somewhere else. If you remember that one, after 8 league games, City had failed to score in 6 of them at the start of the season. Another striker option, obviously, was sort of key to actually getting us kick-starting our season. Obviously, we're in the first division at that stage. Obviously, that didn't last long, unfortunately. But the 1986 season, Varadi had done well. He'd done well at Newcastle and Sheffield Wednesday, and although he'd not quite scored the goals per game ratio at West Bromwich, where he certainly was, he still had a return of 9 goals from 32 starts. So not a total disaster at West Brom, but we managed to pick him up for what appeared to be a bit of a bargain at the time. Yeah, I think even manager Jimmy Frizzell said it was a bit of a bargain at £50,000. And despite a debut and a defeat to Chelsea on the 18th of October, yeah, City's new number 9, Varadi, actually scored in that debut, but it actually took him only 6 minutes. So although we did go on to lose the game, that was one of the fastest in history. So not a bad little start for him, was it? His first goal in front of the main road faithful, me and you, everybody else there, is a crowd of 22,875. Yeah, we sort of got the mid-20s in that season, if I remember rightly. It was a 3-1 victory over Aston Villa on the 8th of November 1986. So he scored in that one. He scored his first ever main road goal in that one, and Paul Molden grabbed the other 2. Paul Molden, some great names in this. I'm going to mention a few in a moment. Though we failed to score in 20 of our 46 league and cup matches that season, and sadly we finished next to bottom and got relegated, Varadi top scored with 9 in 29 league games. That wasn't too bad, was it? 1 in 3. So I think he could be reasonably happy, and I think Jimmy Frizzell was reasonably happy with his contribution that season. Sadly, the board wasn't too happy with Mr. Frizzell, though, was he? Obviously, we'd just been relegated, so obviously Mr. Frizzell was on his way, and obviously we would then get Mr. Mel Machin in charge. So there you go. But the former Norwich boss didn't panic yet. But when I said Varadi played for 3 managers, actually played for 2. But obviously there was 3 managers involved in those seasons, wasn't there? Just that obviously McNeil had left when virtually at the crossover of Varadi coming. So my apologies for that one. Yeah. So getting back to Mel Machin, the former Norwich boss didn't panic. He could see the value of Varadi, and he sort of banked on him and Paul Stewart scoring enough goals to get City back up into the top division again in that 87-88 season. I mean, the pre-season tour went well, all right. We didn't play the greatest teams early doors. We went on a Scandinavian tour. But one of the games, City actually won 12-0 and Varadi scored 6 of the goals. So, all right. Probably a junior team or something. I'm not too sure at the time, but you can't scoff at it. You can only put them in the net, can't you? You can only score. You can only beat what you're up against, can't you? I mean, off the pitch things, yeah, but good old Brother had joined. I mean, that's one of my kids' shirts up there in the background. Brother had become City's sponsors after taking over from Philips. I think we played Eindhoven in a friendly that season as well, and obviously they were sponsored by Philips, weren't they? So that was quite unusual. Yeah, despite Machin being happy with his striking pair, seemingly, I mean, they were always keen. I mean, a lot of these years of the bit of the doldrums for City, we were always keen on getting players in. They just weren't quite that good, were they? We were always quite busy in the transfer market. We're always adding 4, 5, 6 faces every season. But yeah, even though Machin was obviously seemingly gonna go with Varadi and Stewart, obviously we had 12 options, and he also then brought in Tony Adcock. Remember Tony Adcock from Colchester United? But it was a mainly young squad. Yes, we'd won the Central League trophy in 86-87, the season before this 87-88 that we're talking about now, and there was a lot of young players on the verge, a lot of young players itching to get into the first team. You're talking about May at the time, Brightwell, Ian Brightwell, Steve Redmond, David White, Paul Lake, Paul Malden, Simpson, Hinchcliffe. So, I mean, Varadi was perhaps one of the old heads in the team. There's certainly a lot of good young talent, and I think we were quite excited by that, you know, at that time. On September 19th, 1987, Varadi got his first and only hat-trick in a 3-0 win at home to Stoke City. So the partnership was going okay at the start of the season. Varadi and Stewart, between them, scored 16 goals in the first 16 games. And then Varadi, we thought he picked up an injury, but we found out later that he probably aggravated an injury rather than picked up an injury that he'd been playing with on the 4th of November against Middlesbrough. And obviously, many of you 87-88, there's one certain game that stands out, isn't there? So when he got that injury on the 4th of November, ironically, he was forced to miss the next game, which was become quite famous for all that were there. Like me, I was there at it, and a lot of people obviously will know about this game because on November the 7th, 1987, of course, Varadi, like myself, had to watch from the stands as we banged in 10 goals, didn't we, past Huddersfield Town, yeah. And obviously Stewart, his striking partner, he got one of the hat-tricks. But to add salt to Varadi's wounds, obviously, yet Tony Adcock bagged 3 as well. So that was his great nemesis at the time, obviously turned into his nemesis anyway. And he would wear the number 9 shirt then for the next few games. So it earned him a little bit of credence, a little bit of credit with Mel Machin. And though a sort of fit Varadi, he did actually, that injury, we'll talk about that in a moment, he was sort of listed as sub 3 times until a Boxing Day return. So obviously quite a few weeks later, Boxing Day match line up with Leeds United. Yeah, unbeknown to City fans, Varadi had been playing with an injury since the start of the season. He'd actually been putting up with it, and obviously he'd aggravated that by this stage. So it didn't, you know, considering that, he'd been doing pretty well, and I think it's a little bit harsh, perhaps, of Machin to sort of treat him like that when, you know, stick him on the subs bench and stuff. But at the end of the day, if you bring players in, they do a job. It's a bit unfair on those, isn't it? By that Leeds game on Boxing Day, City sat 8th, and they lost that one 2-1, and also lose 4 out of the next 5. So that pretty much ended all thoughts or hopes of promotion. And it was around this time, yeah, we get off tack a little bit. It was the odd inflatable banana appeared on the Kippax, and this was by many, of course. I mean, I was there at the time. I don't remember obviously you may remember the genesis of it. There's been lots of things said over the years of who it was and how it was, etc. But many put down to the fact that many people called, of course, Imre Varadi, Imre Banana. So, I mean, that was the links with that, although it's obviously down to a few City fans' interpretation of Varadi's name. At least that's what the legends say. I think he actually admitted himself years later. He was quite proud to have even be linked with it, whether true or not. I said, I'm not overly convinced. I don't know what happened or where, and I don't think we'll quite know the full story, although the guy who started it all supposed to have told us the full story, but who knows? Who knows? You never know. I'm not going to say anyone's selling fibs, but we all remember things differently. I remember things differently. I've spoke to mates I used to go in matches with when I was a teenager, and it's amazing how you forget things and you misunderstand things. Whatever the banana link, I mean, if it didn't help Varadi as far as playing was concerned, by January 1988, he'd handed in a transfer request. Yeah, he'd had enough actually. But yeah, I mean, shortly after that transfer request, strangely enough, one of the problems for Varadi, Tony Adcock left City, so he went. But yeah, Machin didn't mess about. Quite quickly, he brought in another striker in the form, of course, of Trevor Morley to probably push Vardy's nose little bit more out of joint. But it didn't stop him. Usually it sort of inspired him. He then went on to score 6 goals in a 9-game run from the 6th of February to the April the 2nd in the league. But by 4th of April, yes, Mr. Trevor Morley, the aforementioned guy, had taken over that number 9 shirt, yes, from Imre Banana, or Ray Varadi, as Mel Machin called him. I don't remember him calling him Ray, to be honest with you, but obviously that was the name that Mel Machin, the manager, called him. That season, 87-88, we finished 9th. And Varadi, despite, as I say, almost half the season playing with this little niggly injury, had added another 17 league goals. So that wasn't too bad, was it? Again, it wasn't a bad return. Well, sadly, the writing was on the wall, wasn't it, for Imre? And to add insult to injury, though, featuring as a sub in a couple of games, even I think there's a Kevin Moran testimonial at Old Trafford. I think we lost 5-2, and we'll not talk about that. But he was a sub in that as well, I think. But he was a sub a couple of times previous to the 88-89 season. This would have been his 3rd season at City. But the team photo, which you'll see on the screen, didn't actually feature him. He wasn't even in the team photo for the 88-89 season. So that was a bit insulting in a way, but probably the right. We were just waiting for someone to come in, weren't we? I think at that stage. So I think that was the decision that was made. Quite hard on the face of it, but that's how it was. I mean, more new faces, striking faces came in. We had Wayne Biggins was added to the squad, of course. Nigel Glegor, there you go, good goalkeeper as well. Nigel Glegor had arrived, and by the first 2 games of the season, Hull away and Oldham at home. We'll not talk about that one. I think they beat us 4-1 that game. Varadi was on the subs bench. He was the number 12 for those first 2 games. But strangely enough, perhaps he was perhaps some scouts or someone had come down to watch him, because he was actually playing in the 3rd game, a 2-2 draw at home to Walsall, and he was actually playing as a number 8 alongside, yes, Mr. Morley as number 9, and this was going to be his last appearance for City in that Walsall game. By the end of September 88, Varadi was back at one of his former clubs, Sheffield Wednesday. It didn't go too well, to be honest with you, but yeah, an exchange deal, yes, and Mel Machin was quite happy with the exchange. We got a guy called Carl Bradshaw. Yeah, I've had a quick look. He didn't make many appearances, but there you go. But Mr. Machin was quite happy to swap Carl Bradshaw for our old Imre Varadi, or Imre Banana, whatever you want to call him. But yeah, do you remember much about Carl Bradshaw? I certainly don't. So there you go, Imre Varadi, 31 goals, from 68 full appearances and 13 appearances as sub, so 81 games in total if you add the two together. He didn't really let City down, really. That was a pretty good return if you take it 31 from, say, 68 full games, almost 1 in 2 games, so that wasn't too bad at all. It was obvious quite early doors that Machin didn't fancy him, or obviously he was willing to bring other players in. And I think that was it as far as Imre Varadi's City career was concerned. I mean, as a fan, living through that time, as I said, we were quite excited with the young faces, but I don't think he ever let us down. I think his commitment was always there. If you think about that final season, the 87-88 season, where he did play with an injury, I mean, a lot of players did in those days. He sort of, but you know, and he had a good return on goal, so he did pretty well. I mean, so all credit to him. All credit to him for that. I mean, there you go. I don't think many City fans have anything bad to say against him. And I certainly don't think of anything bad for the guy. I think he did a pretty good job while he was there. And let's not forget, obviously, the inflatable craze, whether it would have still stayed. I mean, yeah, there's no reason why it wouldn't have done, but he was the inspiration behind it, wasn't it? So it's no wonder he's still fondly remembered by those of us City fans who actually saw him play. So there you go. Yeah, Imre Banana or Varadi or Ray Varadi or Imre Banana, though relatively briefly a number 9. He wasn't a bad number 9 at all. I wouldn't say there was anything wrong with Imre Varadi as a number 9. Please let me know any memories you've got of that time and Varadi or any of the other players we've mentioned today. And thanks for watching this little special on City number 9s. Whatever you're going to do the rest of the day, have a great one. Look after yourselves, look after your friends, look after your families. More importantly, let's all look after each other. So we meet here again on the Citizen channel, or perhaps have a flit across, have a look at my film and TV channel. I only ask one thing: stay safe, Blues. Come on, City. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.